Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be planting up the parterre garden, the pots around the Hartley, and the flower bed right behind the chicken coop. And I've picked out a color palette that I think might surprise you. So this right here, this color probably does not surprise you. These are the Super Bells Great Punch, beautiful purple. But right below that, we've got a whole bunch of plants that don't have any color yet, but they soon will. And they are the classy carmine dahlias. We're going with a red and purple color palette for this whole area. Red is not normally a color I work with a whole lot, but I planted these last year. And the tag is a little deceiving. It makes them look like a much brighter red than they are. They are a really deep, beautiful, almost cool red. They're kind of a burgundy red, so it works. I really enjoyed this plant last year, and I thought, you know what, I need to put these a little bit more focal this year, because last year I had them tucked in the south garden, just in an area where it was a little bit, tucked away, so I could experiment and see if I liked it, see if it was something that I could get behind. Because red's usually not something that I like, because the rest of my color palette is soft. It's like softer pinks, apricot, soft yellow, soft purples, that sort of thing. So these I'm going to be repeating throughout the area. They grow about 18 inches tall. They're going to be our main plant down here in the parterre. So we'll be planting underneath these summer Sprite crab apples. You can see the boxwoods are looking really great. We've got Sweet Romance lavender, which I need to do a little trimming on. I actually never cut these back. No, look at that. There's last year's growth and then this year's growth. So that's what they look like if you don't cut them back. My goodness. Anyway, so I'll be planting them underneath here, and then I'm also going to utilize some of them in the pots on the corners that have the Austrian pines in them. But to accompany the dahlias beneath the crab apples, I've got some unplugged So Blue salvias, which grow about 2 feet tall. So we'll have purple coming up higher than our dahlias. Last year, maybe we can flash a picture, it was glorious back here. I absolutely adored it. It was the bullseye salmon geraniums underplanted with Supertunia Vista Bordeaux. And I've got some Bordeaux Supertunias, I've got some Royal Velvet, but I might just skip the Supertunias in here this year. I don't know, we'll just see how things play out. But you can also see that I've got the Pomegranate Punch Super Bells, which I'm going to plant alongside the Grape Punch in the corner pots along with a few of the dahlias. I'm really excited about this because it's something just a little bit different for me. And every once in a while I feel like, you know what, I need to try something that's not just like the same old. And you kind of get into a rut, sometimes. And sometimes that rut is very nice and you like the colors and you're totally happy with it. But sometimes it's fun to change it up, and it's something you can do with annuals because they're annuals, and you can do something different the next year if you find that, oh my goodness, yeah, maybe that's not quite what I love. But sometimes you land on something that's amazing, and I think that's the only way you can really find out. So that's where I was at last year when we planted the dahlias, and then I discovered how much I loved them. Anyway, it's a little breezy today, and it's supposed to get a little bit breezier as the day goes on, so we'll see how it goes. I think I've got everything I need to plant up underneath the crab apples and at least the 4 pots at the corners. And then we're gonna go reload, and we're gonna also plant the end caps. So these areas, there's one on either end. Looks like we've got some sunflowers coming up in here. Excellent. But I've got a slightly different mix of plants to put in here. And then I'd like to also plant up the rest of these containers. Last year we had some mangaves in here, which we may repeat this year. We've got Basket of Gold Alyssum. I think I'll pop that out into the landscape so we could put something a little bit more oomph right there. We'll plant up these urns. And then there's 2 more small pots right here. We'll leave that spruce. That came through winter looking great. Hey, Russell. And then we'll get this area planted. And then for the back of the chicken coop, I do want to utilize some of the same plants, but I'm going to start shifting a little bit more toward just purples, maybe some whites, lemon coral in this flower bed, because this one's going to be more visible because there's not a boxwood hedge around it, to all of the pinks that I have going on the other side of the lane. So I want it to look like it's kind of going a little bit more purple and then into the red, because I think if we see the pinks that are developing in this area with red right here, that might be a little bit jarring. So anyway, that's the goal. Also, we've got pink zephrines and pink foxglove coming up, pink hibiscus. So I think sticking more purples, white chartreuse would be a good call for this bed. So we just need to lay them out and start planting. first one is done and planted. I just want to show you the layout before we continue on. So like I said, I've got 5 salvia per quadrant here. So what I did is kind of a horseshoe. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They kind of just go like this, and then the rest are dahlias. And I did put them about 12 inches, maybe a little bit more away from the boxwoods. The spacing recommended on these is 12 to 18 inches, so we should be good. In my limited experience growing these dahlias, they stayed very compact. They were very easy to deadhead, to kind of control. So I'm looking forward to this. I think the purple and red is going to be gorgeous. And now that I've got the spacing worked out, I think the other 3 hopefully will be easy. I've got a template to work from now. Got the 4 quadrants planted up. There's no color yet, but I really do like the layout. And I think they're going to be beautiful. I just love seeing that dark green in there. I think it's a beautiful difference. You know, the bright green boxwood, the dark green dahlia. Oh, can't wait to see color. That's the last one we planted up. Next up are the 4 pots on the corners. Now these are a little bit difficult to plant underneath because of course, you know, you can see the root ball right there. I've got some land and sea compost and that's what I'm going to top up with just to enrich the soil since these have been in here since last year. But I've got the super bells, both varieties, and then more dahlias because I want to mirror that. So I'm going to do 3 or 5. Can't decide yet. 3 or 5 of these, and then we're just going to go every other all the way around the pot with these 2 colors. Well, these just turned out great. I love how they came together. I used 5 dahlias and then 5 each of the super bells. So we've got the red dahlia here, and then I wanted to make sure I didn't do like, you know, red right in front of red. So I did the purple right in front of the dahlia and then the red in between. and just went every other all the way around. And I just felt like 5 dahlias was going to be a better fill than 3. And they all look the same, nice and cohesive. I think at this point, guys, I want to plant up the cold frames and these pots. And I've got some fun color to put in them. And it's gonna go with our whole theme back here. For the cold frames, I'm gonna fill them up with Suncredible yellow sunflowers. I think these are going to be the perfect size and really fun, bright color for that spot. And I think I'm just gonna put in 6 sunflowers per cold frame because they spread out a couple of feet each at least, and they grow 24 to 42 inches tall. So usually for us, they get between the right around the 3-foot side of things. So I think they're just gonna barely touch, maybe touch the lids of the cold frames, but they're just gonna kind of come forward and just produce a beautiful show of color right there. And then for the 2 iron urns, I've got 2 of these 30-second planters. You can see right here. So they're already put together. I don't know what color of dahlia is in the center, but I'm guessing it's either the red or the day glow yellow, which either one in our color palette is going to work. And then they're surrounded by super bells. So we've got a double, is it double ruby? I'm not sure. And then lemon slice. So pairing those up next to these Suncredibles, it's just going to be a bright show. And I'm feeling bold right now. Bold with color. Let's just go with it, including this. This is what is going to make up our end caps. I'm going to do 6 Rockin' Deep Purple salvias, and I'm going to underplant them with Super Beena Red. That is exactly the color palette I'm going for in this whole area, with the little pops of yellow here and there. It's really fun breaking from the norm. I'm enjoying this a lot. So let's get all of that stuff planted. I do need to run drip to the urns. I'm just going to pop into the drip in the cold frames, run it up over the side into the pots. And the sunflower area, I don't need to use fertilizer or amend the soil with Land and Sea. I'm just going to pop them straight into, we've got raised bed mix in there. Espoma raised bed mix. Sunflowers don't want it to be especially, nutrient dense or anything like that. So those will be easy. Those will go in quick. The breeze today, you guys. Oh. Six is perfect. All right, we are done with kind of phase 3 of this project, of which there are 5. First phase were the 4 quadrants, second phase were the 4 corner pots, and phase 3 were the end caps, the cold frames, and the 2 iron urns. So let's take a look. Kind of want to start at this side so we get the full view here. The pots with these plants down here are so pretty. Like the super bells match the deep purple salvia beautifully, as do the pomegranate punch and the super beaner red. And I went in here pretty simply because of what we experienced last year. I put way too many play in the blues in here. And I'm going to fashion a little, some barriers for these salvia so that they don't lay on top of the boxwoods. That's why these look as puny as they do, because I had to replace, let's see, I replaced 5 boxwoods on this end, and then these were all okay. So we'll have to give those some time to rebound. Anyway, I just didn't plant it quite as heavy, so 6 salvia and just 2 superbena that I just kind of want to incorporate and kind of crawl around between the plants on the ground. And then swinging to the front, you can see these 6 sunflowers in here. I think that's going to be so pretty and such a bright spot, and those will go all the way through fall. And they'll be able to take the full sun. This is the south side of the structure, and the heat. They are on their own drip system, so we can run them a little bit more if we need to. And I just popped the drip for these containers into the drip right in here. I just figured that that would be way easier than tapping in over here and trenching a new line down below and then trying to go up under them. There wasn't really a good spot unless I put these pots up on feet to get the tube up under. And once these things are grown, you will not even notice that little section of tube right there. These plants will fill in, grow over, and the sunflower is going to bush out to where I just don't think you'll see it. But those turned out great too. 30-second planters. So nice. This one's a little bit more full to start off with, but the other one will catch up. Isn't that a bright spot? And then there are the other 6 sunflowers on this side, and I did err on planting them a little bit closer to the front than toward the back. And then swinging to this side, you can see the other end cap, which mirrors the other one. Actually surprised at how much I like this color combination. It just seems like 2 very rich, vibrant, like jewel tone colors. I love it. Okay, so phase 4 of this project is going to be these 2 urns on either side of the door. And for those, we've got some fun stuff. So we've got the Be My Heart Calla, which those are a bit more on the red side, but I think they're going to look good with the dahlias that are back here. And then we've got a new one for next year, which this is going to be an experiment. I don't know how well all of these are going to do together, but this is a Delta called Silver River. And I just thought that the blue, that little icy blue with the red calla and some wire vine would be a really pleasant mixture. I do know that these like sun, which you may have noticed. Maybe I didn't have a good angle of it. Maybe I did. They are on the north side of the Hartley, but they do get quite a good amount of sun when we do have sun. It's been behind a cloud for a lot of today. But I think that they'll like it, so long as the water's okay. Because these are a little bit more on the succulent side of things. Like they don't want a tremendous amount of water. These tend to do okay no matter what and where I put them. These will utilize a bit more water, but maybe that'll make them okay. Like these will use up more water and then like take it away from these. I don't know. Like I said, it'll be an experiment. So we're going to do those 2 urns and the back of the chicken coop area. So for this space, I decided to go with these. I'm going to lay it out and see what we think, but I want to repeat more of the deep purple salvia. And then I thought putting some of the stratosphere white gaura down below those would be such a beautiful color. And look at how it moves in the breeze. It's so pretty. And then below that, lemon coral sedum. So keeping it very simple, not utilizing red in this space because like I said, we want it to be more purple going into, you know, all the pinks that we have over here. And really the pinks that we have back behind here as well. And then phase 5 of today's project is to tackle all the little containers back here behind the Hartley. There's 4 here, 1 here, and then 3 right here. So what is that? That's 8. We're gonna hook them all up to drip, and then we're gonna figure out what we wanna put in them. Okay, let's get phase 4 done. phase 4 is done. I love these containers and I love the area behind the chicken coop, like maybe my favorite ever behind the chicken coop. And this is gorgeous. I love this too. Look at those callas. So the Be My Heart calla, I did 3 of them because I feel like I need 3 in this wide of a container to, you know, create the effect that I'm after. And they will get, you know, upwards of this tall. The tag says full to part sun. So we'll see what happens with this whole thing. I did 3 of the Delta and then 3 of the wire vine. So I kind of am thinking I will try to keep this one a little bit more tame because last year when we had it in here, it was all the way down to the ground. I mean, it's aggressive. It is so aggressive if it likes where it's at. And I know that wire vine likes it back here, but boy, oh, they are so pretty and they just look so striking in their colors. So pleased with those. And the area behind the chicken coop. So usually I pop coleus in here and some other things, like more coleus toward the back because the back of this bed does get in the shade before the rest of it. And then I usually have some sun stuff out this far. This bed gets into shade at about, I don't know, 2:33 in the afternoon, but it gets strong. I mean, there's nothing in the way of it. Strong sunshine up until that point. So I'm excited to see how these plants do. And I love the just 3 plant palette here. We've got the Rockin' Deep Purple Salvia, and maybe because it's not going to be in sun all day long, it'll stay on the shorter end, which either way, I would be good if it got to its taller size or if it stayed a bit shorter. And then we have Stratosphere White Gara kind of throughout, and that's our second layer. And this will just be, these fill in beautifully, but it'll be this wispy, beautiful, just white layer. And then of course our hedge of lemon coral sedum, which is kind of a carry-on from the front. I stopped it here though because I planted golden feverfew right here. I think I'll come in with like a little supertunia that's purple and just pop maybe 1 right in here to kind of fill in. Either way, I don't really think it matters, but I didn't think lemon coral would look good in front of those. Be too much. I popped a few Gara right here. I popped a Gara here, a few lemon coral, and then you can see the front of the chicken coop has that same vibe with the lemon coral sedum. What a wonderful border plant. I've also got some Rockin' Deep Purple here, and then we've got the violet, Vivid Violet dahlia up front. So more of a cool color palette. Hey, Douglas. Something else pretty. And this is surprising to me because this zephyrine gets the least amount of sun of all the zephyrines around the chicken coop. Look at this one. Look at how gorgeous. Let me get a different angle here. I just noticed it yesterday, but because it's kind of tucked in, but my word, look at that. Now these roses, I don't know if zephyrines are prone to it, but you can see like this one has a ton of area around it for airflow, and they do get powdery mildew. It's like our only rose that gets powdery mildew. I need to come in and kind of shear all of that off. But my word, is that ever beautiful. But so is this. So excited, and I'm hoping that the salvia hold up to the wind. That's the only thing about salvia, is that it tends to be a little bit brittle. And if you put it in a super exposed area, especially when it gets really big and kind of top heavy, the branches can tend to snap. I mean, if it's really fierce winds. But these are so tender because they've been in the high tunnel. Just hoping they hang on. All right, our 5th and final phase is to get these 9 containers set up on drip and maybe planted. As I was planting the last little area, I thought, you know, as long as I get drip set up today and maybe get them filled with soil, we'll see how we feel by the end of that. We've done a lot of planting today, and I have no idea exactly what I'm going to put in all these containers. I don't want to make too hasty a decision because I feel like this container right here could use like a little Japanese maple, and I don't have one on hand. I feel like I need to go do a little bit of shopping before I jump into planting all of these. So maybe let's just set them up all on drip, and then we'll go do a little shopping trip just to get a couple things. I do know I want to use some agaves, which I do have on hand, and maybe more of like the Delta or like single plants in some of the smaller containers. Like last year I had a lemon coral sedum, and I had, I think, 3 different mangaves in here. I had an angel wings senecio and a mangave in these 2 last year. So let me just explain what I'm doing here, because sometimes it's hard to get some close-up shots in these tight quarters. But I take a 1/4 inch coupler, looks like this right here, and I take a punch tool and I find our drip access, which you can see it right here. It comes out of this flower bed, and you can see where we have tapped in, and it goes underneath this big pot and pops up and feeds water to this container. So I'm basically going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my, I don't know what this is, hole punch tool. And I'm just going to punch 3 holes in here. We pop a 1/4 inch coupler in, and then we run a 1/4 inch solid black tube from this one. Like in this case, I'm going to run it up the back because, you know, clearly I can't run it up through the drain hole. So that will go into the container, and then I will use another 1/4 inch coupler, and then we'll use a piece of 1/4 inch drip line. I'll show you those in a minute. But in this case and that case, we'll be able to bring that 1/4 inch supply line up through the drain hole so we won't see any tubes up the side. This one's not a big deal because it's behind, like tucked back. So this is the 1/4 inch solid that comes from the supply line and goes up underneath the pot. And then we cut it and we use our 1/4 inch drip tube that has the emitter holes. So that's where we use another 1/4 inch coupler and hook these 2 1/4 inch things together. Once we make our run, however big, you know, or small, we use a plug at the end. 1/4 inch plug. It looks like this. Look at this. I'm wearing gloves today. Look at my fingers still, even in gloves. My goodness. I'm trying really hard to keep my hands nicer. Now this is the only one where, let's see, do we already have a 1/2 inch supply line? I hope so. Yes, we do. Yay. So it probably goes here, elbows, and goes back behind this pot so I can easily bring drip here. I was kind of thinking I was going to have to run the 1/2 inch because you don't really want to run a 1/4 inch line that far. Okay, let's get the drip set up. We might go grab just a couple mangaves so we can get a couple of these planted. But let's do it. Okay, first 3 are done. So you can see where they all come out of the supply line. I forgot to tack this one down. I can do that later. Kind of like to try to hide them under the gravel as much as possible, but that's not too bad. You can see them all coming off. So like this one right here leads up to this container, which now has drip, and we'll just have to monitor things. We usually err on putting more drip emitters on, or in rather, in the beginning so that we can easily cut some out if we need to. And then the 2 that kind of swing out at each side, one comes up through the bottom of this container, and you can see where it switches from the supply line to the drip tube. There's the coupler, and then there's the round of drip tube, and then it ends with a little plug. Same thing goes for right here. Had a little bit of soil left over. I'm gonna have to go get some more. So now we've got to do the same thing with these 5 pots. I need to take the alyssum out first. And I'm going to clear these containers out. We'll start over fresh with soil in these. Got these done. So you can see the drip coming up from the back right here. Check out this drain hole. First of all, I just got a bunch of junk in it. Okay, from the top it looks big, but like from the bottom, it's got a really tiny hole at the bottom. So I didn't want to plug it up because that's a 1/4 inch. I mean, that would probably plug up that hole at least halfway, if not more, than it is right now. And I want these pots to be well draining. You can see all of these right here. Drip is just coiled up inside the pots, ready to roll. And I pretty much, actually I did, find the supply line right back here and popped all of the lines into that instead of, you know, coming off of it right there. Oh, I wish I would have done this a long time ago. Sometimes I don't think about it until after I'm done planting. And honestly, if you think about the time it would take you just to pop all the plants out, empty the pots and hook them up on drip, as opposed to spending all the time, all summer, like spring, summer, and fall long, watering them. It's probably worth the effort to disassemble a pot or unassemble a pot to get drip running to it. But anyway, we won't have that problem this year. I grabbed 2 mangaves. We'll plant these up today. This is a beauty. I think this one's Night Owl. This is the variety that we planted in the iron urns right by my parents' pool last year. We put lemon coral around them and they were so striking. And like the more sun they get, the more like deep in color they are. And then this is a new variety called Moon Glow, which, oh my goodness. And I think that this is kind of the same in that if it gets more light, it intensifies its, coloration right here. And boy, it's beautiful. I think both of these are a zone 9. This one's a zone 9 through 10, and this one is a zone 9 through 11. They both like quite a lot of light. I had mangaves back here last year and they did real well. So let's get these in, and then I think I'm going to call it for the day until we can figure out what we want in the rest of these pots. I don't want to make a hasty decision. I need more soil though. I'll go grab it. I might be able to make do with for this one. Okay, we're going to slide it out and use this pot. Oh, I wonder. See, this isn't rooted super heavy, and these don't winter over. I wonder if we just sink the whole thing down in the pot, in its pot, so that we can pull it out really easy. Maybe. So I just need to pack some soil around the roots, or around the pot rather. I need more soil. Dang it. Oh, that worked out beautifully. And there we go. I did make sure to pop the drip tube inside its container that's inside there so that it's not just going in the soil on the outside of the container. And we'll actually be able to control the water a little bit easier, I think, the way we planted it. And then at the end of the season, we can pop it out really easily and we can repot it into something a little bit bigger, and then these can just stay. It's just easier when you have pots already hooked up to drip to not have to move them in and out. So there's our night owl. And then here is the Moon Glow. It looks perfect in this container. I love it. And we potted this one the exact same way. So now we have 5 smaller containers to find some plants for. And our job is not quite finished. We've got to go replant that basket of gold alyssum out in the garden. So let's go get that done, and then we will be done with our project for today. Now we're done. I just brought it out here where we've already got some basket of gold alyssum. I transplanted this from behind the gazebo when we still had it. For those of you who maybe weren't watching a few years ago, we used to have a gazebo right where the Hartley is, where we were working today. And right behind the gazebo, there was this little pergola. It was kind of like this random pergola with a concrete floor. I don't really know what purpose it once served, but it probably served a purpose at some point. We had that removed, and when we did, this was right next to that pergola, which was right behind the gazebo. And I loved it so much because it was such a bright spot in the late spring. So I brought it out here and it's done great. So now we'll just have a bigger drift of it. And right behind it, we've got a yellow peony, an Edo peony. So when the alyssum is about done blooming, the peony will start in. Anyway, that concludes our projects for the day. What a great and productive day. My goodness. And honestly, like, it was pretty breezy and windy there, well, for pretty much the whole day. But it made it really pleasant because it's one of those weird days, like I'm wearing this big old sweatshirt today because I needed it this morning when we started. And then it warmed up and I thought, ooh, I don't know, I might need to go change. But with the breeze, it kept it just cool enough to where I was comfortable all day. We'll just hope that those salvias hang on. So anyway, guys, I'm so excited to show you throughout the season what that area around the Hartley ends up looking like. I think it's going to be really pretty, and I love the richness of color. I like the shift, something different and something, I don't know, even for myself, unexpected. And I feel like we got to do that every once in a while. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.